Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, Gungans, droids, all you beautiful people. Let me tell you, it's great to be in the Empire today, but you know, I think it also might be kind of nice being a separatist. Today, we're kind of doing our long-awaited 1 month post review of the STAP. What is this guy doing for General Grievous inside of Grand Arena? I know we're all excited about Darth Bane and the Gungans, but we've been waiting for this to finally show some fruit. And although in 3v3 is a little bit disappointing, as we're going to talk about, there's a couple of interesting things going on with STAP, with that Omicron and Grand Arena, where we're seeing some weird inklings of possible Galactic Legend raid counters. Pretty crazy stuff here. Let's go ahead and remind you, in case it's been a minute, I know it's been a while since we've taken a look at the STAP kit reveal, did our initial testing and all that. And if you guys remember when we did our first look, we kind of just had to hold hope that there was going to be something coming along that's going to be a little bit more interesting, because inside of Squad Arena territories, not much is happening. But that single trooper aerial platform, quick summary, STAP's going to gain a bonus turn at the start of the battle. So boom, right at the very get-go, bonus turn's going to try to lay down some heat, and an additional bonus turn whenever an enemy takes their first turn. So if there's 5 enemies, maybe 6 at times, they take their first turns. Those are 5 or possibly 6 subsequent turns that the STAP is getting. And remember, when STAP gains overcharge, all allies getting 20% max health, which is going to constantly persist, and throughout and the rest of the battle, they're going to recover 10% health and protection. And if you remember, when we recharge, we get 5 stacks. So as we talked about at great length, we did a lot of mathematical stuff. Grievous, to keep it simple, essentially doubles his health turn 1, and there's lots of healing and other recovery in here. And we have a lot of anti-clone trooper stuff that we have baked in here. And we also lose this bonus true damage, a really weird clause they threw in here. So unfortunately, the only downside is, for some reason, getting gameplay of this unit has been extremely elusive. We have a little bit of 5v5 and 3v3, but mostly what we're going to do today is we're going to geek out on some numbers and kind of show you what the numbers are telling us. So yeah, kind of where there's been like not a ton of gameplay on this guy, which is weird because General Grievous is a fairly common team, and you know, there's 200, I think 70-some thousand people of STAP. Quite a few of them have it at, like, you know, some Omicrons and whatnot, but not seeing much out there. We can take a look at the numbers later on if you're curious. But anyways, hop on over. So the first bit of gameplay that we have is coming from I Fly Dad. This is actually them going up against my General Grievous. Not going to be much to learn from this particular battle here, mainly just because, well, they wanted to play it safe. They wanted to make sure they tried to get a win. We pulled up on top, though, baby. Don't you forget about it. But nonetheless, they didn't want to screw around. You know, the Grand Arena right now is a super sweaty one where one drop battle is the game over at that point. So we're not seeing Grievous take down Jedi Master Killer. The numbers aren't supporting that either. So not much of a surprise here. We're not going to like fully analyze this. Eventually, they go ahead, they pop the insta kill on STAP, and now you're back to a pre-2024 General Grievous. And they pretty much, I think they got full banners here. Yeah, not much, nothing too credible happening here. 3v3, unfortunately, was very disappointing for General Grievous. Here's some gameplay from Kyber One Fun that they put out there of their Qui-Gon going up against a Grievous STAP. Unfortunately, yeah, this is why we kind of were a little disappointed after the first appearance of STAP, which was in 3v3 Grand Arena. I wasn't seeing much. People were dogging on my STAP. Not much happening there, and the numbers also that. So that's the one big down to the STAP. Now that we're kind of sitting here a couple weeks later, 3v3 doesn't seem to be anything too special for the STAP and Grievous, at least as of now. A simple General Grievous counter gets through it. Now, maybe a B2 would be better. It's hard to say. The problem is Grievous kind of needs the full team of droids to get anything done, and boom, get nuked. So let's go ahead and check out some numbers. So we're going to go to swh.gg to go deep dive into the GAC insights. And if you don't know, swh.gg is literally like the best free resource out there. But in case you're curious, let's take a look at the player data. This is also kind of a good way of kind of gauging how many people are still playing the game. So we have like roughly 300,000 people that play this game. 296,000 got their STAP. And obviously, most folks are going to keep it at 3 stars. 269,000. Nice. 309 getting 7 stars. And you can see the rest of the numbers here. And you can see the spread of how many people have the gear. And you can kind of tell when the chirotechs kick in, because that's where most people are stopping at gear 9. And then, yeah, it gets a lot harder to go up from there. And I believe we can also take a look at some of the Omicron numbers if you're curious. I mean, I have a feeling, kind of like I recommend people, we probably should wait and let the STAP cook a little bit before people kind of go full on in on the STAP, because you know, resources are very valuable. So right now, only 1,588 STAPs. Omicron's making it the second lowest invested Omicron right now. So part of the reason why it's kind of difficult getting a hold of gameplay, the STAP just isn't quite the same without its Omicron. But anyways, with all that out of the way, let's start nerding out on some of the numbers that we have here. So first I want to show was my experience utilizing the STAP on defense. This is the gameplay I showed a moment ago that iFlyDad, I believe their name was, my first opponent of the season. They played it safe. They went under, got the dunk. They moved on. Nothing special there. Grand Arena number 2, and this is what we're going to see at the numbers. One of the biggest weaknesses of General Grievous beforehand was Bad Batch, and more importantly, Wampa was what made Grievous go extinct. The Bad Batch was the start of the death of Grievous on defense. The Wampa was the done deal at that point. But what we're seeing here is that even in 3v3, Grievous with STAP will shut down the Bad Batch, make it very complicated for them to get with the constant bonus turns and B2 getting ticked off, doing buff the spells. The Bad Batch, remember when Bad Batch were like 3-man or 4-man a Grievous team? I don't know if those days are here anymore. And then they came in, once the STAP was gone, they brought in Wampa. But no one wants to do a 2-shot on General Grievous in today's meta landscape. So very solid win here. These are basically the 2 cornerstone counters to Grievous here. Moving on, round number 3. This was also appealing to me. Again, people are actually kind of intimidated. They don't want to risk throwing a Wampa Bad Batch when Grand Arenas are coming down to the wire. You're winning by the skin of your teeth, the hairs of your chinny chin. Throwing overkill on Malgus versus Grievous. They chipped away a couple banners, you know, so they did something. So it wasn't a max banner win. But again, now people are kind of giving Grievous a little bit more respect. But what about we go a little bit beyond my personal experience? Let's go ahead and take a look at the actual data, starting off with 5v5, which of course is far more interesting than 3v3. And the first thing we're seeing, the biggest question, and people were either believing it or they didn't want to believe it, Wampa versus Grievous. I had a suspicion in 5v5 Wampa is going to struggle, and this is the biggest takeaway here. It doesn't look like we're going to have many cheesy counters anymore to General Grievous. Wampa versus Grievous, 59% win rate right there. And again, do you really want to risk a Grand Arena with Wampa versus Grievous? Maybe it'll work, but if you do the Droidica variant, so if you pull out, let's say B2, throw in Droidica, the win rate becomes 43%. So this is one of those instances where Droidica seems to help to be anti-Wampa. So something to keep in the back of your mind. It might be risky moving forward, bringing it in. And actually, this is with all STAPs. I wonder if what would happen if I just did the high relic STAP. So let's go STAP relic 1. All right, so we have 61% there, and there we go, 0% down here. So it may be the Wampa era versus General Grievous could be over, and that was the biggest thing. If Grievous wanted to come back on defense, him and the STAP had to figure that out, and it seems like they got that sorted out. Also, check this out again. Remember, all these, it's going to have a variety of different gameplays. A little bit of an error there. It's going to have a variety of different gear levels. So we might have some purple gear, some gear 9s in there. So a couple of mixed things going on. Generally, going to get Skywalker, 81%. I'm wondering if I increase that number there on the relic tier, would that make any difference on that? That's actually kind of interesting. That's something to pull out there. So with the higher relic STAPs, 66% win rate. Definitely not a very, I mean, Gas versus General Grievous, never really a clean battle, but nonetheless, kind of interesting. I kind of, you know what, maybe we should just keep the relic 1 thing. It is kind of interesting though, seeing even the low gear STAPs doing work, but here you go. All right, so Gas kind of looking a little bit low. Tuscans, I was fully expecting Tuscans to still work. Is that bad though? Someone's throwing a Tuscans, that's kind of a good team. You know, people would like to keep it on defense. Using them on offense isn't, it's cheesy, but it's not a cheap counter. It's an important team. Knights is another common counter to Grievous, 20%. I wonder if we could find some old DACA elite potentially. Again, General Grievous, Jedi Master Kenobi, no problem whatsoever. Dark Trooper Gideon, no problem. Bad Batch, we're looking at about 66%. I'm sure we can get even more numbers if we can do that here. So there we go, 20% if you have the Shock T variant, 62%. Again, if we didn't have the cut or the relic gate right there, awesome. Moving on there. All right, moving on, we have a 33% win rate. Ooh, that's a bit rough. It looks like we have a Droidica in here. So sometimes Droidica could be a bit better. Afra can have a little bit of a struggle there. Quite interesting. Check this out. 33% Jedi Master Luke. Ooh, 0% on that Wampa. Malgus, Trey, no problem again. More Galactic Legend stuff. Bad Batch again, kind of struggling. Some hit or misses with Jedi Master Luke. Bo-Katan. Kind of interesting. I'm not sure what gear level that Bo-Katan is. Yeah, that's a full-blown Bo-Katan, and it looks like one time this person lost here. So hey, you know, again, that's kind of interesting, especially if Super Saiyan Bo. Now, this is another common counter. If you are going to come across Grievous on defense, Rogue One seems to be okay right now. So that's kind of another accessible counter. It's not too expensive. Again, Grievous doesn't seem too expensive to beat. Just a little bit more expensive than he used to be. Here we go. We have an old Daka lead. One person got a solid win up against it. Not a lot, you know, missed out on 5 banners, but to be expected. So here you can kind of see some interesting stuff that we have going on here in regards to Grievous being on defense. I don't know if I would say he's a premier defensive team. Here we go. We got some Commander Luke stuff. We got a Trench that got through Iden Versio, 0%, Jedi Knight Luke, 0%, Maul. Well, a couple times Maul could not get through, and this wasn't even a right Grievous, and you have to have full Separatist there, so that's a little funny. No Mon Mothma, Padme didn't work, and a bunch of Qui-Gons also failing, and holy cow, look at that, a Sith Eternal. Not super surprising. Sith Eternal versus Grievous was never clean, but as we're going to see, Grievous versus Sith Eternal is getting a little bit better in favor of Grievous now. So, as I was saying, I don't know if I would call this a premier team. The obvious accessible counters are Rogue One as well as the Tuskens, but it's still, we're seeing some interesting improvements in a lot of regards out there. So, pretty good stat. But what about the offensive side of the spectrum? I'm a little bit torn if I'm going to bring Grievous on offense with the staff. It's doing okay on defense. You know, if it's got to force out a Rogue One, that means they can't use it like on an Iden or some other Empire team. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see. So here we go. We have Grievous and STAP on offense with the Omicron, no relic minimums. And here's what I want to show you guys. This was kind of interesting. Oh, what happened there? Oops, I messed up there. My bad. This right here. This is a bit wild, and you're going to be blown away by the gear levels. So remember, as we said, the STAP at the minimum is going to supercharge the stats on Grievous. I can only imagine how hard he's going to hit when his health turn 1's getting doubled, and then eventually subsequent turns of overcharge, Grievous is going to increase his health even more. So keep that in mind. We have a Rey battle. Now, granted, not the greatest Rey team in the world. You know, there's no Ben, but still nonetheless. Seeing this is kind of impressive, especially when you consider the fact we have 3 purple gear Separatists with that staff there, Relic 7 Grievous. That is an incredibly bang per buck value exchange right there. Now the question might be, well, Arnold, how is Grievous versus Rey without staff? So I looked it up. I already was ahead of that because I was curious myself. It gets a little cheesy and dicey. It doesn't seem as nice. So let's do this and let's see if we can find a Rey on defense. So not very consistent. A lot of 0%. You might be wondering, what are these battles? So this one right here probably shouldn't take into consideration. It's a low gear Rey, low gear Ben. So probably could throw that out here. The other only win that I noticed was this one right here. Not a really great team. I mean, still cool. You know, they got the win there. You know, there's no Ben. There's not a lot of great characters. There's no Resistance hero Finn, Poe. It kind of was the trash can, basically. Trash can Rey team. And the only other one was the one that we examined right here. So I'm really curious to investigate this more. This has me tempted to try this in offense with the constant bonus turn, plenty of buff the spells at our disposal, and Grievous probably laying down some serious heat and maybe running a train of sorts. Could be kind of interesting. I can imagine Grievous can survive an ultimate from Rey, especially with his high health. So I wanted to put this on your radar. I think this is the coolest takeaway here, but there are some other interesting Galactic Legend stuff that I would like to bring up here as well. So let's go ahead and pull up that staff again. Very nice. And then we'll throw on the throw on our Omicron down here. All right. So in terms of the other Galactic Legends, very consistent battles up against Jedi Master Luke Skywalker and Sith Eternal. And I'll show you no staff just so you can have at least the kind of a gauge for what it looks like. Now keep in mind, these are mostly single battles, but in totality we have, what is that, about 5 Jedi Master Lukes. We're seeing we're pretty consistent, 100% win rates, and I'm guessing not all of these are probably going to be, it's taking a minute to load. Yeah, not all these are going to be fully maxed out staffs, so keep that in mind. These aren't like mostly maxed out staffs. I feel like most of what I'm seeing is low gear staff. Sith Eternal. Now again, this isn't too new. I've done this counter many times. I'm sure many of you guys have as well, but nonetheless, it's nice thing that maybe staff can get through it again. Low gear staff, but again, if you have Newt Gunray, BB-8, you can maybe pull this off without it. So still, nonetheless, seeing that. Other than that, I'm not seeing much against these Leias. We have a couple other teams here. Another super low gear Grievous team. No win in this particular battle. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying that the rating's 100% consistent. Is this the same person? 536 123. No, so different people are trying this out. So we gotta wait and see. These are some pretty, I'm actually surprised they didn't, oh, they retreated. All right, that's why everyone's left at full health and full protection here. So kind of curious to see what this might look like, what they properly modded. Grievous, properly relicked up team. Maybe it's something I'm going to try to do. Risk a Grand Arena. Let's try it out myself. All right, but let me give you a quick gauge on what it looks like for those Galactic Legend battles, and I'll show you the rest of the stuff that we have here. So we look at the Galactic Legend stuff. Let's say you're going up against Jedi Master Luke. It was never a super consistent counter. It was definitely a Hail Mary counter, but if maybe Grievous and Stat bumps it up to a near 100%, that might be kind of interesting. And then the other Galactic Legend for kind of a base level would be Sith Eternal. Again, not the craziest, most consistent counter that's out there. 35%. Again, even up against these wishy-washy Sith teams, Grievous could struggle. Stat might make it more consistent potentially. All right, now I want to just show the other stuff, and then we'll do a quick look at the 3v3 Grand Arena. Not gonna be as interesting in that regard there, unfortunately. Omicrons, slap it on. All right, looking at the non-GL stuff out there. So let's just cut all those GLs out. So again, part of the problem I'm noticing is relic levels on the STAP. So right now we're seeing a 57% win rate up against, Star Killer potentially. We have a couple of wins depending on what the lineup looks like. If I would throw in, so right now we're at 65% against Star Killer. Again, another kind of commonish General Grievous counter. I'm not sure if STAP is really affecting this too much. I'm actually a little surprised. I was expecting a little bit better results from the STAP versus Star Killer. Wasn't quite seeing it in that regard. Let's go ahead and take out that relic minimum there. All right. Geonosians, wow, look at that. So Finn, this is something I imagine that maybe Grievous would do fine against Finn. We're seeing an 83% win rate, only 6 battles, and we got some maxed out staffs. We have some lower gear staffs. This could be something feasible. If you're looking for a cheaper counter to get through Finn and without using Jedi or Aphra, this might be the option here. Got some General Grievous stuff. Ewoks, not too surprising. Some Commander Luke battles. Grievous is already kind of a counter, but seems like STAP was also going to be a great addition to it. Another decent Qui-Gon counter potential if you want to have that at your disposal. Bounty Hunter, nothing too crazy. We got a couple of Dr. Aphra wins. Again, another common thing, but with the ability to get a bonus turn, you're going to outrun Dr. Aphra. Probably roll a train. Not terrible banners versus Aphra. This is Aphrakron. I know my ugly mug's blocking it. This is up against Dr. Aphrakron. Keep that in mind. So that is something very impressive there. I don't see her all the time on defense, but she sometimes pops up her head. Again, we got some more Qui-Gon battles, Night Sister battles, kind of hit or miss. Tuskens, kind of hit or miss. Again, kind of expect. I wasn't really planning on Grievous taking down Tuskens. I think that was the core counter. Bad Batch, we're at about 100% there. No problem there whatsoever. And, at that point, nothing like too crazy out of order. Some Dash Rendars, we see Dash Rendars here and there. We got a kind of a lame Star Killer there. Sith team, so you can kind of see we also have some other Resistance teams kind of down here. Further down the list, Iden Versio. Some couple wins up against an Iden Versio team, although ignore this one right here. That's not the right build. This one below it, it's a little bit more legitimate there. A lot of first order stuff. Maul, even though this person messed up the Maul team. Oh, my heart's broken. No light side Mandalorians on that, please. Nonetheless, got through Maul, not too bad. Again, I don't think there was anything more impressive beyond a bunch of Qui-Gon wins. We got a Wookiee win, some Scoundrel wins, so pretty lower level stuff here. But nonetheless, and then there we go, Rogue One. Grievous seems to struggle really badly on defense and offense up against Rogue One. So that's probably gonna be your best bang per buck counter there. So overall, definitely improvement with Grievous. Would I consider this be a premier offensive team? It's hard to say. It's hard to say this is a premier defense, a premier offense team. Like, boy, the game's never gonna be the same. I mean, Grievous has been a bit more modernized. He's kind of, I guess, keeping up to pace with things out there. Unfortunately, 3-3 does not really share that regard of what he's doing in 5v5. So I don't want to spend too much time here because it's not as pretty. This was very disappointing. In 3v3, Wampa seems to struggle in 5v5 against Grievous Stamp. 3v3 doesn't really seem to be a place for Grievous. If Wampa's going to solo Grievous, you don't want that on defense. We have some hit or misses with Night Sisters. Again, this is kind of a common theme. Bad Batch seems to struggle up against Grievous. We have 100% win rate here for that Wampa. So that's, not going to happen for me. Got a couple of hit or misses with Commander Luke Skywalker, but otherwise you're seeing Savage solo. You don't want to see that type of stuff. Again, Bad Batch struggling, Commander Luke struggling a little bit, but otherwise, everything else, not really. Yeah, it seems like most things are able to beat this. Grievous feels like he really needs the full team of 5 as well as STAP to really get the full benefit. On offense, though, yeah, I don't know if you're really going to be doing much with him. Not a lot of GL stuff. Doesn't seem to work as well there. So let's cut those GLs out of there. Yeah, there's just nothing incredibly awesome. We have the best. It was kind of like, you know, we sort of got one Finn Zori win in there. You know, a Qui-Gon win. Okay, you know, other than that, you know, we have a Seer Junda, no Malicos and stuff like that. You know, maybe beating Iden. Kind of interesting. Hey, we got a trench battle. Okay. Somehow this is up against the Tusken. I have a feeling though that's not an Omicron. Yeah, no Omicron on him. So I don't see myself using. Oh, there we go. We have Dash Han Chewie. That's kind of a cool team. You know, everyone stayed alive. So that actually might be the most impressive thing right here. I don't see myself like making my General Grievous my go-to inside of Grand Arena offense in 3v3 specifically. You know, it's. Hey, you know, maybe if I see a trench, we'll go ahead and throw that in there. That is probably the only interesting thing. Otherwise, mostly, you know, losses across the board. So a lot of time nerding out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I know it's not our typical, you know, gameplay thing. There's just not a lot of gameplay on this STAP, unfortunately. So the way I'm looking at it right now, is the STAP making Grievous better? Oh yeah, much definitely. Like, it feels more confident in 5v5 going up against Master Luke, maybe Sith Eternals, maybe a Rey. I really want to dive into that Rey battle a bit more. Boy, if you can get Grievous and STAP to beat Rey, just completely decimate the Rey team, buff the spells, all this heavy damage, then you just gotta hopefully let Rey take a turn, let them drop the damage unit, and then you just keep the bombardment coming. That would be the most interesting thing out of all of it. Otherwise, Rogue One Tuskens being the best budget way of countering Grievous, I guess it's better than saying Bad Batch and Wampa, you know, because those are really cheap counters. If you can take away a Rogue One or Tusken or something bigger like my opponent to Darth Malgus, that's kind of a win. But I'm gonna stop blabbering. I'm gonna let you guys form your own opinions. Let me know. You see the same data as mine. You see my history, some of the small snippets of gameplay that we did have out there. Overall, I'm gonna say it. I'll say this. It's cool that this looks to be an improvement for Grievous. Maybe there's more to learn. You know, it's only been a month. But generally, we can know right away how something's going to fit in the meta. I'm not feeling it right now that this is like super game-breaking awesome. It's just okay. And maybe we should just be okay with that. Or maybe there's more separatists coming down the pipeline. Who knows? Anyways, until we meet again, thank you for stopping by. Leave that like, comment down below, subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And always remember how it's great to be in the Empire today.
Great to be in the Empire today. The sun never sets.